Okay, we're going to do another form of resist dyeing. So this time we're going to use some flour and make flour paste, and we're just going to do another crackle glaze. So it's slightly different to the wax one that we did. So if you remember, this is our little wax one, and we're now going to do a flour one. So for this you need some flour and just some water. So you're going to mix the flour up into a paste, and it's normally about equal quantities. So I used about 1.5 spoons of flour, so I'm going to put about 1.5 in to start with, and then you're just going to mix this up into a paste. And once you've got a nice smooth paste, you will take a bit more time than me getting your paste together. I'm just going to, don't want it too thick, so obviously we're going to paint this on, so I might put a little bit more water in there. Okay, mix that up so it's sort of lump free. And all we're going to do is you're going to paint this on again to another piece of fabric, and preferably a cotton fabric. You could use polycotton, because if you're using acrylic paint that will sit on polycotton, but sometimes fabric paints don't sit so well on a natural fibre. So once you've got your paste, which is quite smooth, you're literally going to paint it onto your fabric. So I've got calico here, and you're just going to do, you could do it with the back of the spoon, you could paint it on with a paintbrush. So if you don't have a paintbrush, just use the back of the spoon that you use to mix up your flour paste, and you're just going to get a nice even coating onto your fabric. Okay, you will take your time doing this. I'm doing this nice and quickly. You can do a thicker paste if you wanted to, or you could do a couple of layers. So you could let that dry for a little bit, come back in about an hour and paint another layer on, but just need to cover all your fabric, and you do need to leave that to dry overnight. And when it dries, it will look like this. It will go all crispy and crinkly like this. So this now has a layer of dried flour on. What you're going to do is you're going to scrunch this up just like we did with the batik with the wax, but this gives you a much subtler sort of a marble crackled effect. So you can do exactly the same. We'll give it a really good scrunch up. So the thicker coating you have on it, the more crackle you'll get, but there's a very soft crackle on there. So the next thing is you're just going to paint it just like we did with the batik. So you're going to get your water, get your colour, and you're going to paint through onto here, and you should be able to see where the flour is. You can just see slightly lighter colours. Don't get this too wet, because obviously it will melt, well, not melt, but it will sort of make your flour paste come back to a paste rather than keeping it dry. So you don't want to put lots of water on this one, and you paint that on. Now the way to know that this is going to work is to turn it over and look on the back. So if we turn it over, you should start to see that it's coming through onto the fabric here. This isn't ready yet because it hasn't quite come through, so you really need to just keep going and get that paint coming through to the back, and then you know that it's actually going to work. So if you can see a nice crackled effect starting to come through, which it is, just keep going, pushing your paint or your ink, whatever you're using, through. The thing is, because we're not going to wash these, it doesn't matter using just watercolour or acrylic, whatever, poster paint. Even if you've got, you know, really cheap poster paint, keep going, you can start to see it's coming through. So patience, just push that through, and you're going to leave that to dry. When it is then dry, it should look a little bit like this. So this is one I did earlier the other day. And the next thing you're going to do is just try and scrunch off. So really rub this when it's dry to get the flour off. And then once you've done it, you can wash this, and that will take the last residue off. And then you should end up with a nice mottled effect. So that should be on the other side. So that's the underside. I haven't washed this one because you can do that. I don't need to show you how to do that. But you should then get a nice sort of crackled effect there. And that's all there is to flour paste.